This is a bike that needs no introduction, partly because it's in the video title, but I'm going to give it one anyway. We recently went down to Ducati HQ to ride the latest iteration of the Panigale range, the V4S. So far, just about everyone that has ridden this bike has gushed over it, saying that Ducati has finally perfected the Panigale, and you'd hope so, as it's taken a decade to get to this point. But Ducati are on a bit of a roll at the moment, not least because their MotoGP bikes are finally getting competitive again, and the theory is that much of the technology from their racer trickles down to their road bikes. And make no mistakes, Ducati is barely marketing this as a road bike. If you watch the introductory video to this bike last year, they talked almost exclusively about its track capabilities. But don't forget, this is now in the realm of Euro 5, and Ducati seem to be moving away from the lairiness of their past, in some of their bikes at least. So the question for us was, what happens when you take it off the track? Because, you see, when we jumped on one of these, we were at Silverstone Circuit, but we purposely did not take it around the track, and instead head out onto the country roads to see what it's like in the real world. But to be honest, with this one, there's really no point in taking you on board with me, because I have no shame in telling you that this bike is way beyond my skill level. It just feels savage. I was essentially riding it around like it was a Vespa. There's just so much power, and the brakes are so sharp. But that's even before you even think about putting it into sport or race mode. Unless you know how to ride this thing on its limits, it's loud, it's so uncomfortable, and there is just so much heat generated from that engine that it actually hurts. So much so that the new Ducatis mostly all have the same sort of dashboard on them. It's kind of a mini tablet in front of you. But with the Super Sport and the Street Fighter, there's an actual temperature gauge with numbers on it, whereas with the Panigale, it just has a rating of 1 to 5. And my legs were starting to cook once it got to 3, whatever 3 is. Clearly Ducati purposely took the numbers away. But you know what it felt like? It felt like the motorbike equivalent of a racing Lamborghini. And as it should do, I guess, because yes, it has that Italian je ne sais quoi about it. That's French, but you know what I mean. It also has a great whopping portion of Vorsprung dirt Technik as well, because Ducati is of course owned by the Volkswagen Group that owns Audi and its sister company, Lamborghini. And Lamborghini is specifically listed as Ducati's parent company. So it's not just a throwaway line, this really has that same perfect union of Italian design and German refinement, as its big, loud supercar cousins do. It's taken a while for the Panigale to get to this point, but now that it's here, wow, they are not messing about with this thing. All I can say is, you can believe the hype. But this is not a road bike, and it is not for someone with a waist bigger than 32 inches, like me. I'm sure you could learn to live with it on a daily basis, with a few sacrifices of course, compared to some of the less spicy meatballs in the range. But for the vast majority of riders on the road, this is not the bike for you. And I'm sure Ducati don't mind me saying that, because they'll probably sell out of them anyway. But of course, for those of you that are track fiends, I have absolutely no doubt that when you get the courage to take this on a circuit, it'll happily grab you by the bratwurst and like a limp piece of spaghetti. Probably not allowed to say that. But bottom line is, the bike is amazing, but I'm not. The Super Sport is definitely more my pace, and honestly, it's a fun little bike that'll put a grin on the faces of most of you out there. I could ride that thing all day, whereas with the Panigale, I was exhausted and in pain after less than an hour. If you're a lapsed biker, or you've just always fancied a sports bike, it's far too easy to watch the reviews from the big boys and hear them telling you over and over again that the V4S is one of the best bikes money can buy right now. And I'm sure it is, but if I'm sat here being honest with you, 90% of you watching this right now would hate it, because it's a race bike not a road bike. The 10% of you that are genuinely looking at getting one anyway probably know what you're getting yourself into, in which case this review is not really going to tell you much. For everyone else, there's plenty of other options out there that honestly you would be far happier with. If you want a sports bike, go for the BMW S1000RR, but if it has to be a Ducati, look at the Super Sport or maybe some of the smaller Panigales. You won't regret it. But that's the end of the review, and until next time, I will see you later.